Anytime I have to deal with a pathological liar, I look at the family, I look at the friends, sometimes I even know the supervisors or the managers, and I think to myself, this is a disaster. Why? Because pathological liars are liars. You know, it's almost like they have been born and made over time, and any and everything they do somehow has to include a lie. Sometimes it's compulsive, right? Where the lying appears to be an impulsive behavior that kind of, comes out of nowhere, and there's no immediate reward. You may not be able to see any kind of external reward, and there really is no reason for the lie. Just be honest. With pathological liars, their lies exist at all times. Other times, their lies are kind of curtailed or minimized or exaggerated, or it's never the 100% truth. You're going to find something wrong with what they are saying. Having been a therapist for 15 years working with children, teens, and families, I've learned in that specific population that you can often find lies in a variety of contexts. You can find lies between the divorcing parents. You can find lies in the boyfriend and girlfriend relationship of a teenager. You can find lies in the childhood of a child who's done something he or she knows is wrong. And you can even find lies amongst grandparents sometimes. Individuals who you least expect to be a liar can be a liar. And that's the scary part. You know people who are liars, and they tend to be really good liars. It's hard to tell if they're telling you the truth or not. You know what it's like to be around somebody like that, or you've heard about them. And one of the things that astounds me about them is they can kind of chew bubblegum, jump rope, and dance at the same time. It's like they have become experts in lying instead of becoming experts in other things, right? Like giving to a charity or becoming a manager of a major bank, right? Or becoming an engineer. Instead of doing something like that, they are really developing their skill in terms of lying, and they learn how to, hold their face. They know what to say. They know what not to say. They know who they can lie to and who, they can't lie to. They know what facts to put up, right? They know what eye contact to give, the intensity of the eye contact to give. Pathological liars really are experts in lying. It is hard to get around them. The pathological lying can happen in a population where you least expect it. Something like amongst the population of malingerers or individuals with fictitious disorder, Munchausen Syndrome and Munchausen Syndrome by proxy. Here's the definition on the screen. These are disorders that actually are not always the result of a mental problem or a legal problem, but sometimes a lying problem. Malingering is the idea that you kind of exaggerate or you intensify the symptoms that you claim you're experiencing so that you can get out of work, so that you don't have to go to court, so that you don't have to be a parent and you can be on disability benefits, right? So malingering is this major issue in society that we rarely talk about, but it's an issue that often entails pathological liars. Fictitious disorder is also an issue. It's a clinically diagnosable disorder where an individual takes a symptom and they exaggerate it, and they have all the symptoms and behaviors and emotions and thoughts that comes along with that disorder, and they run with it. And they try to get benefits. They try to get Family Medical Leave Act to cover their absences during the week. Sometimes they even try to get less time in the office and more time at home. Munchausen Syndrome and Munchausen Syndrome by proxy also entails an individual who is legally and psychologically unstable, but a lot of the issue really lies in the reality that the person is a liar. They're creating and stirring up symptoms that are not there just for the end result, which is, being praised or externally rewarded or getting the love and affection they never got before. Trying to live a life with a pathological liar is going to drive you absolutely bonkers, because there's often a changing reality when it comes to them. You may find yourself feeling like you know them, your friends, your husband and wife, your boyfriend and girlfriend, your sisters, your siblings, whatever, and everything is going well. Then that lie comes up and it's like your life takes a drastic turn for the worse. Now you have to be faced with the fact that, wait a minute, I am dealing with a pathological liar. I am dealing with a person who makes things up, twists and skews things in their mind, right? Skews, is that the right word? Yeah, that's the right word. In their mind. They live in a fictitious reality, right? My eyes saw one thing, but their eyes claim that they've seen another. And so this can be a very big reality shift for you, especially when the individual claims that they saw what they saw and you know that wasn't the case, right? How do you deal with a person who claims that they are telling the truth when they're not? How do you deal with a person who lies on you and you know what is the truth, right? How do you deal with a person who stands up to law enforcement, judges, parents, therapists, other authorities in society and says that didn't happen and clearly you know it did, right? This isn't always an intentional act. Sometimes it's unintentional. In fact, there's some research that suggests that the frontal lobes, which are behind the forehead, that there's some kind of challenge with the ways in which information is processed with the frontal lobes. And that means executive functioning is going to be an issue, right? Higher order reasoning, being able to rationalize and intellectualize and understand things. There may be some issues with decision making and impulsivity, right? Because when you're faced with a situation where you have to tell the truth or you need to tell the truth, you're going to be at a fork in the road, right? And that fork in the road says, are we going to go this way and tell a lie and ride that lie out until I can't ride it anymore? Or are we going to go this way and tell the truth and I'm going to have to deal with the repercussions of that truth, right? And so for a lot of pathological liars, they choose poorly the decision of lying. And then they impulsively go down that road. We have to keep in mind that, this isn't only just a neurological thing. Sometimes it's psychological. Sometimes it's emotional. Sometimes it is, I just want attention and I'm going to lie. Now, let me also mention here that we lack a diagnostic classification of pathological lying in the DSM. We cannot diagnose somebody as being a pathological liar. Would I love to apply that label to some of the people that come across my desk? Absolutely. Because it is clear that they don't have a mental health concern. It is clear that they are not mentally unstable or emotionally unstable. It is clear that they're not trying to protect their lives from abuse, domestic violence, the list goes on, where lying sometimes is a protective mechanism. It is clear that the individual is a criminal and they feel comfortable lying. This is where they exist. I would love to give them a label from the DSM and say, you know what, this is a liar here, but we cannot. There isn't a lot of consensus within the field on what is and what isn't a pathological liar. There is also no consensus on how to define a pathological liar, making this a potential classified disorder, putting it in the DSM, diagnosing it, addressing it as if it's a diagnosis. We really don't have an agreement between myself and my colleagues and different people in the field of psychology where we need it. What we can do is diagnose somebody with another disorder. So we can say borderline personality disorder, and we can add in there that there's been multiple reports that are false, right? We can also say a person is a sociopath or a psychopath. We would say antisocial personality disorder with impulsive decision-making, lying behavior, compulsive lying, impulsivity, the list goes on, right? We can also say that a person who's a narcissist shows all these different behaviors and pathological lying, compulsive lying, the list goes on. But to be able to diagnose it as a specific disorder, it's not going to happen. Most research suggests that pathological lying is often linked with pathology of some kind, a personality pathology, a mental illness, a behavioral concern, or even a disorder like malingering or fictitious disorder. Usually what happens in these disorders is the person really doesn't take a mature stance. They are immature. They are lacking in the ability to decide how to decide things in their world, right? So they often make the wrong decisions, and they tend to enjoy some of the attention that they get from lying. And so that keeps them stuck, and that keeps us confused in the field of psychology. Pathological gambling, intermittent explosive disorder, sometimes trichotillomania, right? And other impulse control disorders have been linked to pathological lying. Again, This is because it's part of the frontal lobes, it's part of decision making, part of impulse control. And when you don't have that, it's likely that you are going to be put in the pile of individuals who have pathological gambling behaviors, that have intermittent explosive disorder where they just blow up with no real trigger, right? And other impulse, control disorders like trichotillomania, pulling your hair out. You're going to get thrown, or that individual is going to get thrown in that pile if it is very clear that they have poor executive functioning, impulsivity, and poor decision making. If you feel like this is you in a relationship with somebody else, if you have a sibling like this, a husband like this, a boyfriend, girlfriend, a colleague, a friend, a neighbor, if you feel like this relates to you in some way, then you want to keep watching. Common challenges with these kind of individuals include embellishments and exaggerations. Pathological liars really get a lot out of embellishing. They know how to exaggerate things so you'll believe them. The other thing is, you're going to see no clear reward with these individuals. There may not be a goal for the line. There may not be an actual end goal. There may not be something that they're trying to get in return or achieve. They're just liars. None of it makes sense. And they can get caught repeatedly and then go back the next day or a couple hours later and do the same thing that got them in trouble the first time. They don't learn from their behaviors, which is why they are considered to be impulsive. You may also notice inconsistent behaviors. One minute they're telling you this thing, next minute they're telling you another. Most of their behaviors fall in line with the title and the label of pathological lying. They are inconsistent, they are unpredictable, and they are untrustworthy. And this is just who they are at the core of who they are. They're not going to change. You're likely to see dramatic shifts in their behaviors or in the stories that they tell. They tend to engage in victimization, right? They're the victim. Nobody believes them. Nobody believes that they're going to do what they do. Nobody believes that, they're capable of changing. Everybody is against them. The world is out to get them, right? Victimization kind of projects attention onto other people and things so that they can get away with the lies that they want to get away with. They also tend to engage in random lying, which makes them very unpredictable. Sometimes they may tell the truth. Other times they may lie. So it's hard to tell what's a lie and what's a truth, right? Because it's interchangeable for them. They may also tell their stories in a different way than you expect. So they may steal another person's story and make it their own, right? Or they may take their own story and make it somebody else's. And it kind of keeps you loopy and confused. You don't know what to believe. Their lying tends to be persistent, pervasive, and chronic, and compulsive. Consistent, pervasive, persistent, and chronic. We might as well put all those words together, right? Because that's what their line is. Their line is always on the table, no matter what. A simple conversation about how that person's day went puts their line on the table. Any kind of communication that you have with a pathological line, make sure that you keep in mind that there's probably going to be a carved out space where their lying behavior is going to exist. You're not going to get the full truth. There's always going to be some curtail, some shift, some untruth, some part of this that victimizes them, right, or makes them claim that they are the victim. There's going to be some kind of pervasive pattern when it comes to lying. Most individuals who lie have problems in three important settings: the home, the school, or work community, or the actual community. So at home, school, or work, and in the community. They have marked distress, most individuals. The behavior usually persists 3 months or more, right? So it has to be a pattern of behavior that exists or persists for more than 3 months. You're also likely to see significant impairment in their social relatability, right? They're not going to be able to relate to anybody or have communication with anybody. They probably will get caught in some of their lies. Things are not going to add up. People are going to start rejecting and refusing them, right? When people start to realize something is wrong, that's when they start backing away. And that's when the distress happens for the individual who's lying. That's when the significant challenges with functionality comes into play here. You can lie all you want, but it's when you get caught, and it's when you get caught multiple times and by people who are trustworthy, people who have high standards, that the issue really becomes an issue, right? You start lying to the police, you start lying to your boss, you start lying to your spouse, you start lying to people that trust you, and it backfires, then that's when we start to realize, okay, this is an even deeper problem than we thought. So how does this impact you in the long run? Well, let me just say, you're going to have a consistently changing changing reality. All of the things that you know to be true is probably going to change around in your mind a couple times. Why? Because you're going to try to figure out why this person is lying. You're also going to be confused as to why they lie and why they do it without any conscience, right? And so if you can't figure out why they're doing this repeatedly, you're probably going to start getting online and Googling things. If you can't find an answer there, somewhere you're going to want to go to a therapist to figure out this person, right? So your life is going to shift and change if it hasn't already. So you're going to have a quickly changing reality. The other piece of the puzzle is you're going to have confusion. Confusion is going to be the absolute cost of dealing with a pathological liar. You can't stay on straight street when you have somebody that kind of plays these games all around your head, right? It's like playing chess with a person who cheats. It's really hard to figure out what move they're going to make next. You're going to have insecurities, right? You're going to be pulled into some of their lies and get upset and angry. I don't want you to do that. And most psychologists would say, don't let them pull you in. Why? Because once they pull you in, they've got control over you. And you don't need them to have control over you, right? You need to be in control. So, you're going to feel the need to feed what's going on, and you're going to feed into the problems, and I encourage you not to. You're also going to have uncertainty, right? And there's going to be a lot of hostility and anger on your part, in addition to feeling manipulated, right? How can you live a life with a pathological liar when you're feeling consistently manipulated and hurt, right? You're going to start storing anger. You're going to start, storing hostility, and that's when a therapist appointment is probably needed to support you. Over time, a pathological liar will get to you. And until you can put up the correct boundaries, until you can identify what is wrong with them, until you can say, you know what, I don't want you in my life anymore, you're going to struggle. It is hard living a daily life or, any kind of having a relationship with a pathological liar. It's going to be difficult because you can't stay on straight street. Your reality is going to shift every time you come in contact with that person. And let's not forget the subconscious, right? Because in the back of your mind, you're probably suspecting they're lying to you now, right? And so that's going to flip you upside down, and that's going to keep you confused. So stay tuned with me this week, guys. We're going to talk about this live on Friday and Saturday. So I encourage you to join me. I hope to see you then. Bye-bye.